Welcome to Channel Today in History. In today's video we will talk about the day, November 19, 1990, the end of the Cold War. The 1989 revolutions in Eastern Europe were a historic event with multiple consequences. On the one hand, they meant the overthrow of the communist systems that emerged after 1945. On the other hand, they implied the loss of the zone of influence that the Soviet Union had built after its victory against Nazism, and that some called the Soviet Empire. The Cold War, the conflict that had marked international relations since the end of World War II, would end in a way that no one would have dared to imagine a few years earlier, by the overthrow and disintegration of one of the rivals. The end of the Cold War and the disappearance of the Soviet Union are two parallel events that radically changed the contemporary world. Historians are not in agreement with determining when the Cold War ended. For many, the end was marked by the Malta summit between U.S. President George Bush and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Both leaders met on the boat Maximo Gorky, anchored off the coast of Malta, on December 2 and 3, 1989. A few weeks after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the two leaders met to talk about the dizzying changes that Europe was undergoing, living and officially proclaiming the beginning of a new era in international relations, and the end of the tensions that had defined the Cold War. Bush stated his intention to help the Soviet Union integrate into the international community, and asked American businessmen to help Mikhail Gorbachev. The latter solemnly proclaimed that the world was ending a period of Cold War and beginning a period of prolonged peace. Others point out that the end of the conflict occurred on November 19, 1990, when the United States, the Soviet Union, and 30 other countries gathered at the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, which would conclude on the 21st with the signing of the Paris Charter, a document whose main purpose was to regulate international relations after the end of the Cold War. The charter included a non-aggression pact between NATO and the Warsaw Pact. President Bush declared, after signing the document, "We have closed a chapter in history. The Cold War is over." 2 days earlier, the Treaty on Conventional Forces in Europe had been signed, which meant a sharp reduction in troops and non-nuclear weapons on the continent. After establishing negotiations in Vienna in March 1989, an agreement was reached that the two superpowers should reduce their troops in Europe to 195,000 men each, from a presence, at the time, of 600,000 Soviet soldiers and 350,000 Americans. On January 16, 1991, the US-led international coalition launched an attack to dislodge the Iraqi invaders from Kuwait. Soviet support for UN sanctions, which would lead to the unleashing of the Gulf War, was agreed at the Helsinki summit, held last September between Bush and Gorbachev. This support was a palpable example of the end of antagonism and American supremacy. In July 1991, after the 1989 revolutions, and in the midst of the Soviet states' disintegration process, the Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation, and Mutual Assistance, Warsaw Pact, Alliance of Mutual Military Protection of Communist Countries, signed in Warsaw in 1955, it disappeared. NATO became the only major military alliance in the world. Did you like the video? In the description you will find the blog link with the full article. Give an incentive by subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. Hugs. Until the next.